Hey guys, in this episode I have Andreas, a former venture capitalist and startup CFO, who graduated with a finance degree and a thesis in corporate innovation from university in Sweden. Andreas helped fund and mentor companies that have gone on to IPO or sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. And as a venture capitalist, he was working with these high-level entrepreneurs and was always fascinated and exposed how and what top startups do to grow in ways other companies just don't. So I'm super excited to have him on the podcast because he's going to share all this information with him. Plus he will also share with you how to run a successful fitness business. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the FitBiz Journey podcast. Today I have an amazing guest for you guys, Andreas Calabrese.
Thank you for having me here.
I said it great, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
You did.
And he is an amazing guest, guys, because he have done some amazing things. He's an ex-venture capitalist who took a few businesses and his latest one from all the way from zero to all the way a 700 million exit strategy and IPO as well, right?
Mm-hmm. We had a few IPOs, yeah.
Perfect. So I don't know who would be even better guest to talk about some financial stuff in the fitness industry than Andreas. So Andreas, thank you so much for being here. And let's just, I guess, start with the audience to let you know, so they can let you know a little bit better, like where you actually came from, because from your last name, they're gonna be like, oh, he must be Italian.
So I was born in Colorado. My dad's side of the family is Italian, but they were from upstate New York. And my mom actually immigrated to the US from Sweden. Awesome. So I grew up kind of going back and forth between the US and Sweden quite a bit.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And you came here to, now you're in Tampa Bay, just so you guys know. You just moved here about a year ago.
Yeah.
But before that, let's go back all the way. So how did you end up getting involved with venture capitalism?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you ask, I think most people who work in the venture capital industry, if you ask them how they get there, almost all of them will say by complete accident, and they didn't know they'd end up there. But my route to it was, so I grew up in Colorado going to an elite ski academy there called the Vail Ski and Snowboard Academy. Oh. And so a lot of my life was centered around trying to become the best ski racer that I could. But always during that, I had always had a deep interest in technology, but it didn't really manifest into this is something I could do. It was, I would play with computer programs, or, I wanted to host a new Counter-Strike game, so I would host a server on our school servers, or things like that. But the other thing that I was always really interested in was how money worked, how it functioned. So I was lucky enough to go to school in Canada for 2 years, where at a school called Quest University, where I was kind of able to set my own path in terms of what I wanted to study. And while there, I started to look at a little bit of what would become some kind of electrical engineering type courses, but then I would mostly wanted to focus on finance. And then there were some unforeseen changes in my life, which usually lead to the best things, as I'm sure you and any entrepreneurs know that your best moments come from things you could have never foreseen. Yeah. And that brought me to going to school in Sweden. Since I had a Swedish passport, I wasn't able to continue studying in Canada because something had happened in my family. So I had to go to Sweden to be able to finish my university degree. And while there, I got to study just kind of more of a finance and business type of focus. But I had stayed really interested in technology and especially kind of industrial technologies. And I went to school in a university that was directly tied to ABB, which is a big, mostly known for robotics and electrical systems type of company. So we got to play around with a lot of that stuff.
Good.
That led me to do my university thesis with Samsung, a few Coke Industries portfolio companies on basically this idea of if you were a big company and you just scrapped all of your R&D and said, you know, we're just going to invest in the best companies, small tech companies that are doing what we want to do, what would happen to your R&D? And that was really interesting, and that led me to working with a venture capital fund, and they were an American venture capital fund, and what they were doing is they were investing in basically spin-off projects in the Nordics, so Sweden, Norway, Finland. So we're talking 2 university professors, a white paper, and that's about it.
Okay.
And what we were doing is we were investing in these projects and then helping them kind of become a real business. And through that process, once they were more established and once they had gotten some traction, the ones that were ready, we would assist them in going over to the US market and really coming over. So what we were doing is we were building entrepreneurs rather than just supporting them. And that was really exciting for me. So then fast forward from that, I never wanted to be a venture capitalist or an investor who had never sat on the other side of the table. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs have come across support organizations who have never done that themselves. And to me, that was like the most Dracula bloodsucker identity ever, and I did not want that. So I joined one of our companies that we had invested in as a CFO. And what we did is we raised a little bit of follow-on funding from some of the current investors we had, and we went to open a lot of offices here in the US.
So you basically went from athlete to look at the books.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of similarities in those, especially with ski racing because it's such a fine detail sport. So if you think of team sports, if you make one small error when you're playing soccer, for example, or basketball, you miss a pass, drop the ball, you can recover from that for the most part.
Yep.
In ski racing, it's so fine detailed that if you come into a turn a foot too wide, you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also a very tough sport because you spend a whole season losing, and you'll usually have, unless you're the best of the best and you're winning everything, you'll usually go through a whole season and your entire season's results are derived from 2 races. So I think in that, it really prepared me for that naturally.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so let's go on. Oh, by the way, do you know who Lindsey Vonn is? We just met with her a few times in New York City, actually, yeah.
A funny story. Lindsey Vonn, so my dad was working for Rosignol at the time when Lindsey Vonn was young, and he was one of the first people to, I think, start to be involved with helping her come onto Rosignol. And her family lived right down the street from me. So
no way.
Her little brothers and I would wrestle and get fights in the local park, and she was actually my reading buddy for one really short amount of time. But yeah, I mean, in those ski resorts, they're really small towns, so you kind of know everybody.
Well, even that, just guys, I always say this, it's a small bird, because that you sitting right here, and I just brought it up, and then you actually done that. That's pretty funny. But anyways, okay, so now you said you are basically investing into entrepreneurship more than, you joined as a CFO, to the company. Yeah. And then what happened after that?
So, I joined this company as a CFO, and that was fantastic, because it really showed me the best lesson that I would take from that was that even though everything seems like it's on fire all the time as an early stage company, that's what it's supposed to feel like. Everything feels like it's totally disorganized and wrong and things, but you're still, it gave me the exposure of, hey, this is how every company is going to feel. Everyone who's starting something and trying to grow something quickly is going to have that same experience.
Yeah. And how long were you with that company?
I was with them for a little bit more than a year. We opened a few offices here in the US, grew our office in Turkey and in Sweden.
Wow.
And then we actually ended up running the first ever digital marketing campaign for legalized sports betting in the US, in New Jersey, with DraftKings.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then which company was the one that you closed up with? The one that you basically went IPO, right?
So those would have been companies that we invested in from the venture capital firm.
Yes.
So we had the general partners of the firm that I work with were fantastic, and they were probably some of the most powerful and influential people that I will ever meet in my lifetime. But what they were able to do is they were able to invest in some of these companies, and 2 of them IPO'd on the NASDAQ First North, which is a market in Sweden. But then the biggest of those was a mobile gaming company called Small Giant Games. And that grew from basically a concept up to being acquired by Zynga for $700 million.
Wow, that's awesome. Congrats on that. That's pretty cool.
that was all the team. That was all them.
Well, it's teamwork.
But as a VC, that's really what you're doing is you're only backing the companies and providing them maybe with some resources, but they really did that themselves. So that's really cool.
So let's go back to a few things. So you mentioned that when somebody starts a company, then they should feel that it's on fire, right?
To a degree, yeah.
Yeah. So there are so many, especially business owners especially in the fitness business, that they starting their business, and especially now, I feel like, and I wrote an article about this too, that there's literally right now the fitness boom, I call it, because there are literally, I picked 5 companies, the top 5 companies right now that just came to the US and launching gyms, and those 5 companies just this year alone open over 5,000 locations,
right?
Just combined, and that's just 5 companies I picked. And there's so many mom and pop shops that's popping up left and right. So what do you think? Because right now the mom and pops are usually put all their savings into it, and they go fight basically against the big giants that come in with big fundings. So what I wanted to ask you is, which one would you rather do or pick? Or what would you recommend to the people, that they try to create their own mom and pop, like their own shop, or they try to join something like that has a big backing and they basically got on their ship?
Right. So this is kind of like the join a franchise where the model is set out, or try and build everything from scratch type of question. So this is actually a common question in a lot of different industries. But I would take a step back. And I would say, what is it that I am uniquely good at? And more so, what are the things that I'm uniquely bad at? And then maybe if I have some other founders or people who are working with me, do the same for that. Because if I already have a great audience of people who, or a network of people who want to train with me, if I think that I can manage location better, if I think the actual layout of a gym is something that I could build better than anyone else, then I would try and build it myself, because that's my advantage. But if what I think I'm really good at is scaling something very quickly, or opening something, getting it going, and then opening something else, getting it going, and just kind of doing the bare minimum to make sure that I'm growing as fast as possible, then joining one of those larger companies might be better. But that's more, rather than saying one is better than the other, because there's going to be super successful examples of both. It's more stepping back and thinking about yourself, what you want to do, what excites you, and what you're uniquely good at.
That's a perfect answer. And what would you say, so let's say now people joined and they opened a studio, and now let's say they're planning on opening up the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So what would be a right time for, let's say, a single, let's say family-owned fitness business to either keep going with their profits and they open up one by one, or try to go for funding?
That's a great question. It really depends on what the end goal is. Because something that's really common is when you take, so debt and funding are 2 different things, but let's say that the taking funding route of someone investing in your business. What that really does is now someone's investing in your business, so you almost are starting over in terms of where you have to get to be deemed successful. So if someone's investing in your business, even if it's been run successfully up to this point, they're taking a big risk, so you probably need to return 4, 5, 6, up to 10 times their money for it to be seen as they put their money to use in the right way. So what that means is that if you want to take on that funding, know that that starts a timer and it starts a clock on needing to scale up very quickly. And if that's something that excites you and you want to do that, that makes a lot of sense. But lifestyle-wise, completely owning maybe 4, 5, or 6 gyms in the long run might be better in terms of your sanity, but also it might be closer to that same kind of what are you good at skill set. So it really depends, but if there's a availability of funding now and people are wanting to fund things that are maybe a little bit more exciting or different, so if you think what you're doing in your gym is different, then the funding is available.
And how would somebody do that? If one of our audience, let's say they have if they have 1 studios, how would they go about it? Or if they, let's say, have 10 studios, is there a different route for both or different type of firms?
There definitely is. There's an investor out there for almost any type of business model in terms of an individual. So the first thing to consider would be that debt is always going to be cheaper than giving away equity in your company. It sounds like a crazy concept, but it's a basic financial concept that with debt, it's much cheaper because the value of what you're giving away in your business, once it's grown, is worth a lot more.
Plus, it's only you still.
Right.
Yeah.
But taking on debt usually has a lot of constraints around how much money are you making? Is it really stable? Those kind of things matter. And usually with debt, you have to be a little bit more careful of going for those big moonshots because you obviously have something to pay back. So if you have, let's say you have a business maybe of 1 or 2 locations and there's proving that relatively quickly you can get up to being profitable at that business, debt might be a great option because then you can open a 3rd business and then a 4th one and you own everything of it.
Yep.
However, if you're seeing that you can open something very quickly and there's a limited time or a limited amount of space for you to go as fast as you can into it, raising from another investor might make sense. And so the way that you would do that is, all right, someone who's going to be local to me is going to be the best because they're going to see what we're doing. We can have face-to-face conversations and they'll be able to more so help me locally.
Yep.
So you would look around. There's a few resources. You could use something like Crunchbase to look for investors who invest specifically in technology businesses. You could look for news articles about certain, if you're in the gym space, other gyms that have scaled up and try and figure out if there's some money behind them. But finding individuals who like to invest in the space that you're working in and starting to have conversations with them.
Yeah.
Not going up to them. Yeah, exactly. Because if you're an investor in the fitness world and I come up to you and say, hey, I'm building a new enterprise app for messaging, that doesn't make any sense to you and you can't be helpful because there's a lot of money out there. Money is the least important thing an investor is going to put into your company. Their Rolodex of people that they know, their experience in building other businesses, ways they can connect you, that's what you're getting with an investor. Money is, we often joke in the VC industry of dentist money, but it's true. There's money to be found or capital to be found in a lot of different sources. What you're looking for is someone who comes on almost as a business partner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why people ask me all the time if we take on investors and something like that, and I always tell them that only if you would find somebody that we actually need to come on as a partner. Yeah. Just like you mentioned it, and for operations or CFO or whatever the actual the company needs at that time. Otherwise, just like you said, somebody comes in with a big cash of money, and then all right, what's next?
Right, and especially if they're not haven't invested in a private business before, they might start to get scared when you send them a report of, hey, we lost our customer or my co-founder just walked out and doesn't want to do this anymore. Someone who's invested in a lot of companies before, they'll know that their job is to help you through those things compared to someone who hasn't will freak out and want their money back all of a sudden. And
that's a good point.
The last thing you want is an investor making your job harder. It's really hard to do this. It's really, really hard. And everyone's, no matter how big or small you're, building Facebook and building a single-owned gym are going to feel just as hard.
Yep, I agree. I'm so glad you said that because everybody thinks that entrepreneurship and building a business is easy. But Elon Musk, I like your reaction to it.
I'd love to meet that person.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they've never done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's my quote always when somebody says that to me. And then I always say, have you seen that speech with Elon Musk? I literally asked them that. He explained it perfectly. He said that, to college students, he goes, no, don't start a business. Starting a business, unless you like chewing on a whole glass in your mouth, glass pieces, for about 10 minutes, and then slowly swallow each piece of that glass that you have been chewing on. If you like that, then go ahead and start a business.
Yeah, he also has another quote where he says, well, so a lot of people think starting a company is really exciting. It actually really sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone who starts many companies as him, that should tell you a lot.
Exactly. And then even if you see like some of the interviews with him, what he's doing, and when it was the behind the scenes, when SpaceX and all those Tesla and all the companies were going through the struggle period when everybody knew they were really struggling, oh, he was up 40 pounds, down 40 pounds, losing hair, it was crazy. But anyways, so yeah, guys, it's not easy.
Yeah, that would be the biggest takeaway that I have learned from starting my own company now, but also seeing other entrepreneurs is it is equally as stressful, difficult. You'll be asked the same questions of building a Facebook versus building one gym location. Yeah, it's the same thing. 100%. Because it's all a personal experience, and everyone's journey is going to be, you're going to go through the same kind of emotional cycle.
That's awesome. That's something that we can quote because it was a perfect way to put it. So what would be like a really good advice that you would want to give, let's say, a fitness entrepreneur, because we are unfortunately known in the fitness industry that I call it the know-it-all industry. Okay. Because most gym owners and personal trainers say, oh, I know all of it. And then they run their own way, right? So because they work in their business, so they technically don't have to do as much payroll, especially if they have contractors and like all those things. But if they want to scale, obviously they have to step out of running their own and working in their own business, as in like training clients. Yeah. So what would be like, let's say, the few first steps that you would tell somebody how to even look at their financials monthly, or what should they set up for like payroll or even just accounting or anything, because you're obviously big into numbers, that you would just tell them to track or look at before they either hire or open a studio or open a second one, or wherever you want to start, just like basically like a baseline for, let's say, a fitness entrepreneur. Right.
So I've gotten that question actually quite a bit, but the first thing I would do is, it might seem a little random, but to step completely back and canvas yourself. Canvas yourself as an entrepreneur and canvas yourself as to what your skill sets are. Because if you're trying to build a scalable business, erase everything that you know about being a personal trainer or a fitness trainer. Because that is not what your job is going to be. And if that's what you want your job to be, then build a business to where you can do that. But it's not going to be a large business. So first you step back and you say, what are the things I'm uniquely good at? What are the things that I can do with other people that are constantly pointed out as my strengths? Every time I meet a person, they say this one thing. What are the things that I recognize as my weaknesses, and what are things that other people recognize as my weaknesses? What are things I've fallen flat on every time? Because what this will do is it'll allow you to start to get an idea of what direction your business is going to go in to leverage who you are. As a leader of your business, it's really going to just become a reflection of your identity, and that's really important. So if you're constantly good at managing teams, or in the fitness industry, for example, if you're very good at designing programs, make sure your business is going in the direction of you being able to set the tone for designing programs. Perfect. If that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect sense.
The next step from that is, all right, so now we've figured out what direction we want to go in. Let's figure out what our key metric is. And every business will have one metric that sets apart and says, this is how we know if we're being successful. And it's not revenue. Revenue is a result of an entire machine.
Exactly.
You need something inside of the machine. So for a fitness business, it might be new signups, it might be retention, it might be number of shares on social media from like maybe you do a picture at the end of your workouts and that seeing how often that's shared.
I like that.
But again, it doesn't, too often we look at, all right, what's the revenue? What's the financial impact? Finances are the result of a machine, and you need to build the machine first. So focusing on a metric inside that proves whether the machine is working or not is the only thing you should be worried about. And then the next step from that would be, okay, how can I build a team around me or build people around me that will best serve that machine?
Yeah, that's awesome. That was perfect. That, guys, if you paid attention to this, we'll make sure to highlight it too, but he basically gave away the perfect recipe how to go from being a personal trainer currently in your business to actually run and operate it. and make sure to focus on your strengths. And what you said, by the way, the way you started out, that what is it called? It's almost, there is like a method, like Peter syndrome or something. It's like Peter Decker said that, like when, let's say today, if you are, and this is when I literally wrote a book about this, what you literally said, and I'm so happy that you said that. Okay. Because what I met with so many personal trainers, what they do is, and I did the same thing, and so many people did the same thing, is that they are personal trainers, they're amazing at it. Guys, you're amazing personal trainers, right? Your clients start telling you that, man, you could do this on your own. You are the one who makes this company the best. You are the one who running this, basically, right?
Right.
They keep, even if they're working at, let's say, LA Fitness or whatever locations they're working at, and the clients start giving them all this boost, morale and everything, and they feel like that, oh yeah, I got this. So what they do is, they quit, and then they start their own business, and they go into that new business as personal trainers.
Right.
But they don't think of all the other things, that a business actually needs, and they either stall, and they stay personal trainers for 15, 20 years. I have met so many, doing exactly the same thing until they burn out or quit, or eventually they figure it out and able to scale up. But what you said is the perfect recipe for the second, the scaling up.
Right. This is not just common in personal training. I mean, this is something you see in almost every industry, is that people associate the first step there
current skills
is your current skills, but you're also the amount of value that someone's deriving from what you're doing is being directly linked to time.
Yep.
And if you're a solo entrepreneur, you can only make that trade of this much time for this much value.
Yep.
What you need to then build into is whatever someone's experiencing is worth value, and someone interacting with your new machine is value.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then basically just don't judge your today's skills to the future skills that might have nothing to do with it. Like as far as personal training versus business ownership or running a business.
Right. Everyone's worried about how do I run a business? How do I run a business? Look at the current top companies in the world. With the exception of Amazon, a lot of them were founded by people who had absolutely no business experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Mark Zuckerberg, prior to going to college, didn't know that websites and things online were businesses. He thought they were just collections of people who did cool stuff.
That's cool.
And now he runs, obviously one of the largest companies in the world. So,
but what he did is, I'm not sure, sorry to interrupt you, but not sure what he did it, or he's maybe stuck. Obviously the investors probably brought it, but Sheryl Sandberg was probably the best hire that they ever done for Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sheryl Sandberg is why Facebook is what it is to a degree. I mean, obviously it's a great product, but that would be a perfect example of Mark figuring out, all right, the things I really want to be involved in is take the technical direction of the company. I need someone that comes in that helps set the standards for how to scale a business. And that's what she did. That doesn't mean he unloaded the business stuff.
Yeah, of course.
He's still very involved in how his company is run.
Yep.
But in terms of setting the direction for how the operations scale, that's what she does.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm so glad to hear that, because I have met so many people, and just like you said, who don't do so many things in the business. And even Elon Musk is the one that he usually says that he's involved, most of his time he spends with engineering, what he likes, and design, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But he's of course heavily involved in everything else, but it's just how he spends his time, and then hire the right people around him.
Yeah, and he purposely sells himself short of that. I mean, look, he built a massive payments business.
Yeah, true.
And he also has a degree from the Wharton School of Business as well. So he might say, oh, I mostly focus on design, which is probably true. But when a big meeting comes up about, how to set a new policy for their stock, he'll be able to have the insight.
Got it, yeah.
Right, you can't pretend like you can't be able to have insight in all your business questions.
Yeah,
that'd be a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's perfect, awesome. Thank you so much. So where could people find you actually right now if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently running a firm that focuses on automation. So if you want to get in touch with me, my company's name is Zeta Ampersand.
Okay.
My email is just Andreas at Zeta Ampersand. You can find it, we have a website. But you can find me on Facebook. I have a public Twitter that I don't use that much. And I'm on Instagram as well. But anyway, people want to find me there, they can get in touch with me. LinkedIn as well.
And who would be your customer that you would want to touch or want to help with? Anybody? Are you investing too, or are you done with that part?
No, I still stay involved with early stage companies. The ones where I can be the most helpful. Things that I've seen before. Ones that are technology enabled, that's usually where I'm the most helpful. But what we're doing now is we're working with any company that has 20 or more office-based employees, and we implement systems and kind of figure out what's your process. and where can automation have the biggest impact.
And when you mean automations, like let's say AI to software-based and that kind of stuff? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So not so much robots and machines, but how can you take all the information that's in, say, your CRM system and have it send emails to people, enter information into your billing system, and then go somewhere else, all without you having to touch anything of it.
That's awesome. And so you're creating your own software, or you know how to connect these items?
So we actually go in and look at what softwares a company usually has. And a big belief of ours is that the future of businesses will not be, and this is probably similar to fitness, to where one product or one big system is what used to happen. Now it's going to be a collection of a lot of small things. And so what we're doing is, rather than trying to build another product, we're seeing that there's going to be an infinite number of small products that are constantly changing, and that connecting those together is the future of what a big management product would be.
Yeah, fitness industry needs it, by the way, because from what you said, from payments to autopay to even review systems and so many things. There are so many things that are connected. I mean, from the CRM to the leads to the mail campaigns and everything, we have so many already connected and hooked together with tokens and everything. So I totally understand what you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to say or give an advice, last bits of words before we wrap this up?
Yeah. I would definitely say entrepreneurship is a journey and a marathon, and it's individualized to everyone. Never compare what you're doing to the successes or the scale or how big another business is right now. What your job is as a founder and as an entrepreneur is to take the step from where you are right now to the next place and try and do that as fast as possible and deal with the problems that you have today. You will not become a better entrepreneur by watching what other people are doing. You will not become a better entrepreneur by copying what other people are doing, because the problems you have inside your company are unique to yours and they will continue forever. So change your mindset into becoming someone who is constantly learning. Every single problem that comes up is going to be an opportunity to learn about how to deal with it, and you'll be able to solve those problems in the future. So that's what I would say, is just know that your timeline of what your business is and what success means to you is individualized, and to focus on that and nothing else.
And that was amazing. And that's completely can be relatable to people in the fitness even.
Yeah.
Just like your clients, think of your clients.
Exactly.
Everybody wants six packs, but you need to do each individual steps and not jump over.
Yeah, six pack as a result. Getting through a core routine on the floor for 7 minutes, that's your process. Yeah. And focusing on the process is what's going to get you to results. Forget about the results. They'll come from you focusing on a process.
Exactly. Process is first. Got it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And guys, don't forget, it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's everywhere. So make sure to please share, like, watch, and get in touch with us, and get in touch with Andreas if you have any questions. As you can heard, he's amazingly knowledgeable in the fitness, not just fitness business, but in the business itself. So thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned till next time.